Hey everybody, welcome back. So some time ago I showed you a parallax effect in Canvas, which is one of my favorite effects that you can do on a Canvas page. And now it's 2024, I'm going to show you a better way to do that. Now what I have on the screen here is an assignment. It's actually a discussion that I did last week with my class, and this is a copy of that, where I wanted to show various different types of advertisements, and I want them to share advertisements with the class and analyze them according to, whatever we're studying this week. And so I have a bunch of examples down here, and then I have this parallax effect. So you notice all of the pictures, they scroll up on the screen, except for some of them are stationary, and they kind of reveal and then they hide. And so that's the effect that I'm wanting to go for, and I'm calling this the parallax effect here. So the background is stationary, everything else is moving. And so today I'm going to show you how to do this inline, because in the past I showed you how to do this effect, but we had to modify the theme editor a little bit, put some custom CSS onto the server, the instance of Canvas, and not everybody has access to the theme editor. And so I'm going to show you how you can do this right on page with inline text, and you don't need any special permissions or code, or you don't have to talk to your Canvas administrators. You can just do this for your class. We're going to have a lot of fun. Okay, so this is the same page I showed you a moment ago, but I scrolled up to the top. I have some boilerplate text here, some Hawaiian ipsum, and I want to put a parallax effect right here. I'm going to search for an image and put it right in this spot right there. And this is all the same page. I have a box here just so that I can scroll, which I don't actually need anymore because I ended up putting this other assignment down at the bottom. But what I need first is an image, and I'm going to hop over to Unsplash, and I'm just going to look for textures. And I'll mention that this effect, this parallax effect, is not something that you're necessarily going to want to have important information as part of the background image that will be the parallax. It's more decorative. So this is just something to wow your students, and it's something kind of ornamental that I think is interesting, but it shouldn't be like the important content. So I'm on Unsplash, I'm searching for textures. I want to search for landscape textures, something that will span the width of the page. And so, any one of these, for the sake of this example, these are all great, I think. And so I'm just going to take one of them at random. And so a couple ways that I can do this. One, I can just borrow the image from the Unsplash server, and I'm going to right click, copy the image address, and then come back here, and I'm going to use that. So I'm going to go to the edit page now, and we're going to be working in code. And so I have the parallax image is right there, and I'm going to put the link to the image right there. And so that's going to be my parallax image, and I'm going to replace this text with some custom code. Okay, so I have my div on there. This will be the parallax image, and we're just going to talk through this real quick. And so for one, it's a div, and so here's the beginning div, here's the close div, and then here's where the div ends, and then I have a non-breaking space, which is just HTML code for space. Like if you hit space on a keyboard, that would be the space, but you can't do that in the HTML editor or else it won't render. It has to be actual amperscore NBSP semicolon. And so that'll be my div, and then we're looking at style. So all of this is the style, the CSS inline code that I'm going to put. And so first of all, in my style, I have background-image, and then the image will be a URL, and here where it says URL, I'm going to replace that with my Unsplash code. And there's two ways to do that. I'm going to show you first using the Unsplash code just from their website, and it's a lot of alphanumeric, so it's HTTP, and this is essentially the website to that image. And so we'll ignore that for right now. I think a better approach is to actually download the image, upload it into Canvas, and I'll show you that in a moment as well. All right, and so we have the background image, and there's the semicolon, so that's one element, background image, and then I want that to be static. I don't want it to scroll up with the other images, and so I have background-attachment fixed, semicolon, and then I have background-repeat, no repeat, because I just want it to appear one time, not several times. You could put that to repeat if you want it to repeat, and it could be, like a PNG of a flower or something that you want it to just repeat as much as, the screen height would allow. And then I have width of 100%, and so it's going to span the entire width of the page. I have height is 50 VH, which is viewport height, which is essentially, it's always going to change. That's a variable thing depending on the size of the screen that the student or the viewer is using. So I have right here, this is a 27-inch monitor, and so my 50 viewport height would be this area and half of that. And if I'm on a phone, the viewport height would be different. If I have a large monitor or smaller monitor, then that would be different. And that's different than saying something like 300 pixels, which I could also do if I wanted to. And I'm just choosing 50. You could choose 100, you could choose 20, and we'll play around with that a little bit. And then background repeat, no repeat, I already have that, so that's my mistake. Redundant, it would fix it once I save. All right, and so now I'm going to save this page, and we're going to check out that parallax effect. All right, so here it is. You can see that I put 50 viewport height, and so from the very top up here to the very bottom, you can see it takes up about half of that. And the image doesn't move. It's kind of a stone background. And what's interesting is if I click on the hamburger icon here and expand it, you can see some of the image is actually off of the screen a little bit. So there's a little secret. You know, if you were to make your own custom image, you could put a little secret over here for the students. Nothing important, you know, that they would need. No content of the course that's relevant, but a little Easter egg right there that they can discover if they were to expand that. So that could be fun. Let's go ahead and play around with that viewport height. So we saw what a 50 viewport height looks like. Let's go ahead and change that to, let's change it to 100. Let's see what 100, you wouldn't want anything bigger than 100 because obviously you don't want something to be larger than the actual screen that they're viewing that on. So 100 would be the max. And so you can see as I'm scrolling this, right about there, it gets to 100 and then it starts getting to the bottom. And so that's what 100 looks like. I think an interesting effect would be if you get something really small, like a 20 or maybe even 15. Let's see what 15 viewport height is. That's essentially a little less than a sixth of the screen. And so it kind of works like an interesting separator for the content. In fact, even if that's 15, I might even go, half that, like 8, and that could be kind of like a horizontal row. Like I have these horizontal rows here, those thin lines. You could use an image as a horizontal row, and that would be really interesting, I think. And so if that's 15, let's go ahead and try one more, and I'll do it at like 5 viewport height. And of course, that's going to be different if you're on a phone versus a large monitor. And so if you're getting really small like that, you might just go with pixels, like choose 25 pixels or something. All right, and so now you can see that parallax effect kind of sneaking up through there. That's one way to do it, where I don't typically like this way because I don't want to rely necessarily on the generosity that Unsplash is always going to be there and have images and that they're never going to replace it. And so I'm going to take this code and I'm going to copy it, put it on my notepad over there off to the side. And let's go back to Unsplash. This time I'm going to download the image. And I'm getting a message I haven't actually seen before. I wonder if this is one of those premium images. Oh, it's Unsplash Plus. Okay, let's try a different image that's not Unsplash Plus. Well, this is pretty crazy. So I'll go with this one. Let's see if it's large resolution. It is, so I'm going to go ahead and download this blue one right there. All right, so now I'm going to hop over to Files. I'm going to drag this onto my Files page right here. I could rename that, perhaps I want to call it parallax.jpg. All right, search for it down here. All right, click on that. So now what I want to do is get the address. So I'm going to go copy link address. So now on the page here where it says URL, I'm going to go ahead and paste the address. And so it's going to be the link to your course, files, download, FRD equals 1. Okay, so that's what I'm going to want. And instead of height, 5 viewport height, I'm going to put maybe 25 pixels. Now let's put something bigger. Like instead of 5 viewport height, let's go back to that 50 viewport height and see what that looks like. All right, and here's my image. It looks like it's actually a really large image. It's really zoomed in. So this probably isn't the best image to use, but it's interesting. At least we get the concept, So you'll have to tinker around with images, maybe create your own image or download one from a stock website that you like. And so that's how you would get that effect. And if I scroll down to the very bottom of the page, you'll notice I put this effect where I have 2 images and they kind of, one morphs into the other. And so that could be interesting as well. In order to do something like that, let's hop over here and grab just some other image. This one's pretty different. And so I'm going to go ahead, for this one I'll just copy the image address instead of downloading it, just to save time. So now I'm going to copy that link and we're going to duplicate this, and I'm just going to put them right next to each other. And then I'll take this link and replace that link right there to the canvas image, and I'm going to put this one. And just for fun, maybe I'll take that initial one and I'll make another copy of that. See what that looks like. It could be fun. Alright, so that's kind of interesting, and I showed this on my first video as well, this kind of effect. What it looks like is that there's the blue image and then the red image is appearing on top. It's like the red image is scrolling up the page as I'm scrolling, but it's interesting because it wipes up, but then this image is also static as well. I'm going to try one more effect. I'm going to tinker because I'm just curious right now. I'm just exploring with you. I don't have any of this scripted or planned, but I want to put these down to 20 viewport height so that they're a little thinner, a little skinnier, and so that I can see that effect. And that could be interesting. Like, that could actually have some practicality if you were to have, for example, I'm thinking of some of our anatomy courses. If you were to have a picture of a skeleton, and you can have a picture of a skeleton on the top and on the bottom, and then this middle picture can be like the same picture of the skeleton but with a muscular overlay, and then as you scroll up and down the page, it's kind of like you're doing a body scan. And I wish I had thought of this earlier and I could come up with those images and show it to you, but hopefully you can visualize what that means. So it's kind of like if we were to think this blue is the surface, like a map of a planet or something, and then we're doing a scan of the planet, and underneath you see volatile lava, and so that's what we're looking at right there. And so yeah, kind of a fun effect. And the good thing about this, updated for 2024, is that it's all inline. You don't have to knock on your Canvas administrator door and beg him to put, or beg her to add some CSS to the theme editor. It's all just this one line of code. And in the real world, there's actually more that you can do with the background image, but with Canvas, with some of the limitations that we have with the allow list and the deny list, then this is the best that I could come up with. But I think it still gives you some ideas of some fun things that you can do. So anyway, I hope this is helpful. I hope it gives you some ideas. And until next time.
Happy Disney morning.